Yesterday, California achieved a major victory in protecting a woman's right to choose. Democratic Governor Jerry Brown signed a law allowing nurses and physician's assistants to perform a first-term abortion procedure, giving California women greater options to undergo an abortion when it is most safe and least expensive. But elsewhere, the war on choice continues. This week, the Nebraska Supreme Court upheld a decision preventing a teenager from getting an abortion because she, quote, failed to establish by clear and convincing evidence that she is sufficiently mature and well-informed. The teenager, referred to in court as Anonymous 5, is 16 years old. She was placed in foster care earlier this year because her mother had a drug problem and her father beat her so severely that he broke her collarbone and shoulder blade. In Nebraska, a minor must receive parental consent to obtain an abortion, but the girl told the court she feared her strongly religious new foster family would disapprove of the pregnancy and might disown her. According to court documents, she also told the judge that she would not be able to financially support a child or be the right mom that she would like to be right now. The judge, who reportedly served on a state anti-abortion committee, apparently found the teenager not mature enough to abort her pregnancy, but took no issue with her readiness to bear a child. Joining us now is the president of NARAL Pro-Choice America, Elise Hogue, and host of MSNBC's Disrupt, Karen Finney, who we should note serves on the board of NARAL Pro-Choice America. I am flanked by NARAL Pro-Choice America. Elise, setting aside the judge and his own politics that he chose to let him use to inform this decision, I think the thing here is the notion of parental consent and the fact that 21 states require minors to obtain parental consent and 3 require consent from both parents. When you have extraordinarily extreme cases like this, it does not seem to serve the women's best interest.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we all want our kids to come to us when they're in trouble, and we should try and foster that communication within the family, but the government cannot legislate it. It's been shown time and again, and what it does is endanger these young women facing terrible and desperate situations. And I personally cannot put aside the judge's history, because one of the things we know is not only did he serve on a major anti-choice board for trial lawyers, but he also defended Operation Rescue people in criminal cases. That's a clear case for recusal, and the case should have been overturned, and we're seeing this time and again. The anti-choice extremists have a full court press on government. They're getting into judgeships, they're getting into state legislatures, and that is their strategy to make Roe moot, whether or not they can overturn it.
I want to talk, before we get to SCOTUS and other judges who are taking up issues of reproductive choice and freedom. Karen, the California decision is a big deal, and the case that is referenced here is the Kermit Gosnell case. And I think what's really interesting is some people heard about that case and thought, oh, we need to end the practice of abortion or limit it. But in fact, women are safer, the procedure is safer, patients are treated better if they have more access to better providers. And if you look at the numbers, 87% of counties in this country do not have an abortion provider. That is 1 in 3 American women do not live in counties where they can seek abortions.
And a lot of those women may also not have the means to get to wherever she could have the abortion, or she could have the early prenatal care that she would need, or the early health care that she might need to be able to make this kind of decision. Now, I mean, you know, we talked about this actually, Elise and I and the NARAL folks, a lot of us, that, you know, there was this backlash after Gosnell, and, you know, our feeling was very strongly, that's exactly why we need the laws that we have. We need to protect a woman's right, because remember, poor women are the ones who are left victim to a Kermit Gosnell when they can't go to a doctor, they can't get an abortion, and there are a myriad of reasons, as we know, why women have abortions at different stages in their pregnancy. And so to just deny a woman any kind of access, any kind of health care, just outright, it really, it's discrimination, and it really, you know, harms low-income women, women of color. And Jerry Brown, God love him, like, it was a great decision.
But it is not, I mean, Jerry Brown's actions are not in step with the tide across the country, which is to restrict choice. And I want to talk, Elise, about this sort of incremental strategy, which seems to be make these laws that make it harder and harder and harder for women to get abortions, shame them and humiliate them, whether through, you know, making them take transvaginal ultrasounds or get counseling to, you know, urge them not to get abortions and show them the fetal heartbeat, but make this decision as physically and emotionally difficult as possible. The Supreme Court is taking up Klein versus the Oklahoma Coalition for Reproductive Justice, and that's all about access to certain types of drugs that are used in abortions.
Yep.
And if you look at what's happening in Ohio, which has basically become a laboratory for anti-abortion measures, I mean, this is something that has caught fire across the country.
It has, although I will differ with you on one point. Governor Jerry Brown is a beacon of light and sanity.
Right, yes.
However, he may be out of step with other governors and state legislatures. He is not out of step with the majority of the American
a very
people.
fair point.
And I think it's an important point, right? Because one of the things you see over and over again is where the restrictions are happening. They're happening in the dark of night. They're happening in budget bills where they don't have full public debate like they did in Ohio. And they are happening that way, or in North Carolina where they attach it to the motorcycle safety bill. They're happening that way because even these legislatures who are driven by this extreme ideology know how out of step they are, and they want to hide it. They want to get it done, but they want to hide it. And this is, I mean, look, you just did a whole segment on the government shutdown. We're risking debt default. You've got an extreme GOP party who is focused in a time of crisis on shaming women and telling us we can't make decisions about what's best for us and our families.
Adding in stipulations about contraceptive coverage in a government
How
shutdown.
much more out of step can you be with mainstream American values?
Ryan, one of the cases that the Supreme Court is going to be taking up is McCullen versus Coakley, which challenges a law forcing protesters to congregate more than 35 feet from the entrance to reproductive health care facilities. This Supreme Court has struck down landmark legislation in the name of free speech, and I think a lot of people who are concerned about this sort of shame, again, this shame and humiliation and intimidation factor in and around the choice of abortion are worried that they will rule, quote unquote, in favor of free speech and strike down these kind of limits that are in place.
Yeah, well, John Roberts more or less lied to Congress, when he was going through the confirmation process, when he was asked whether or not he respects precedent, and he said he very much does. He has then, come to the Supreme Court and gutted every precedent he thought he could get away with gutting. So I think people who are worried that they'll overturn this, have good reason to believe they will.
Remember that the people who congregate, though, outside of clinics have a sort of mob-like mentality. Their job is, again, to shame the woman, make it as hard as possible for her to get in there. So it's not about free speech, actually. It is about, shaming, and it is about making it harder to access something that is your legal right.
And many of the young women that went to Gosnell cited the terrible protesters at the clinics down the block
to not go there. Sunlight is an important part of this battle, and shining a light and talking about the stuff that's happening at the state level and, of course, at the national level is incredibly important. The president of NARAL Pro-Choice America, Elise Hogue, thank you, and thank you to Jonathan, Karen, and Ryan. That is all for now. I'll see you back here tomorrow at noon when I'm joined by Sam Stein, Josh Green, Katrina vanden Heuvel, Congressman Kurt Schrader, and the New Yorker's Hilton Owls on his new book, White Girls.